welcome to the What's Happenin' music show. Today we have some really, really great artists and songs lined up for you, as well as an interview with Sami Chohfi. And we're also going to be talking about how important is radio anymore? Do people even listen to the radio anymore? Like, what's going on there? So you're in store for a really, really good show today. And let's kick it off with our discoveries. Jamie, do you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. So my first discovery is from the Tim Bragg and Ross Hemsworth duo. And their music compiles a rugged vocal style and a clear talent for songwriting and musical composition. So this duo released a new album on the 31st of July called Tall Stories and Short Streets. And it actually features 12 songs, which are all excellent compositions that you really need to explore. Now, there's a mixture of songwriting here, so some are written by Bragg, and some are written by Hemsworth, and some are co-written together. So there's a nice kind of fusion of musical elements here. So we have a mixture of rock and roll, country, and blues vibes, and some indie elements all thrown into this album. So if you like to explore different types of music written by two different musicians who have different backgrounds, then absolutely check these guys out. I would recommend you try the title track, which is Tall Stories on Short Streets, as not only is it written very well and musically is a nice number, it actually tells a really important story. And that story is of a Vietnam veteran who helps fund his homelessness by basically telling stories. So it's a very interesting, probably quite sadly, a very close to the truth story, but I think they explore it really well, and it's something that should be discussed as long as it should be heard. I would also recommend you try Rock City Nights, which is sung with some lovely vocals from Freya Wolf, as well as Soul on Fire, as this is a bit more of a funky number, but is excellent nonetheless. So yes, this is a good album from this duo, and it's 100% worth a few listens. But if you'd like to listen to, as I said, a couple of different songs written from artists with different perspectives on life, then absolutely check this one out.
All right, so my first artist this week is Han Bloom, and she is based in London and is an alternative fusion artist and composer. So she mixes her classical background with alternative rock, electronic, and jazzy vibes, and it creates such a unique sound. Her debut album is Higher State of Mind, which she released just this past May, actually, so really new. She's already started working on her second album, though, so she's totally back at it, which is fair enough. Her music is fantastic, and it sounds like she's just got a lot of great ideas going on. So yeah, I would recommend listening to Blasphemy. That's definitely my favorite track. As well, London Town is also quite good. So yeah, definitely check her out.
Cool. So my next discovery has some truly wonderful vocals and a brilliant vibe to her music. And this is singer-songwriter Saskia Vese. And she released a new single on July the 12th, which you absolutely all should check out. Now, Saskia Vese has been called the Wonder Woman of country music, and she is from New York. Now, with a title like that, it definitely means that she is someone you should check out. But if you do like country music, then I highly, highly would recommend you look at some of her stuff. And the thing that I love about country music is, and it's prevalent in a lot of her songs, is there's a really good feel-good vibe and there's a nice upbeat character to it. Now, apparently there are several songs in the pipeline, which is very exciting, but you can check out her vocal line, obviously, on her songs, but also on a collaboration project with Patriot on what's called, from an album called Patriot, which is a collaboration of several musicians who have written songs that are dedicated to war efforts. Now, if you are looking to explore this artist, I wouldn't go to Spotify because a lot of her releases can be found on Apple Music. So definitely go to Apple Music, and I would highly recommend you try her single Say Hello, which is one of the first singles she put out, because I think that's really characteristic of her style. And obviously you should try her brand new one out, which is called Headlands.
Amazing. We'll definitely check that out. So my next artist, I think, is actually one of the ones that you might have featured on a Friday feature, but it is Pixi Ink.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's an electronic artist, and she's got some really unique soundscapes. She describes it as moody, urban, and anti-fairy tale. And it is so cool to listen to. She released a new single in July, Sugar Moon, and also has 2 EPs out, Pixi Ink from 2018 and Tales of the Underground from 2019. So check out her new single for sure. And I also really liked The Boy Who Lied from her 2019 EP. So definitely check her out. You might have heard her already from the Friday feature, but she's got so much great music. So definitely look her up.
Yeah, definitely. Pixi is awesome. I love listening to her stuff. So super happy that you talked about it here. Okay, so my final discovery is more of kind of a musical composition, and this comes from composer and producer Micheal Wall. So if you're into listening to music that is both moving, has kind of an inspirational character, a bit of relaxation notions, some nostalgia, and pretty much any emotion you can think of, then Micheal Wall is really someone you need to explore. He has a high degree of musical prowess and skill, and you can really hear that in his compositions. And quite frankly, I think pretty much everything he has produced is beautiful. Now, I think the direction of his music is he writes it for people to dance to, which I can definitely imagine. But I think the things that stand out for me when I listen to these, all the little intricacies that he brings to the music and the atmosphere that he creates. So I would recommend quite a few different songs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend songs that he has on his Spotify because some of them are named a bit odd. So I would recommend you try the song 3147, as I think this is a real demonstration of things that he can create, and I think it's very characteristic of his music, and it is one of his more beautiful pieces of work. But the thing is, there is actually over 50 releases on Spotify, and he does a lot of stuff. So while he has this hauntingly beautiful presence in his music, he does a bit of experimentation with kind of more digital and a bit more rocky sounds. So absolutely go and check that out. He also released an EP called An Agreement, and that came out in June. So that might be a really good place to start. So yeah, if you like soundscapes and emotive music, then Micheal Wall is the musician that you can check out.
So my final artist is Green Haze, and they released their first album, Focus, in 2020. So brand new music for you guys. And it is a very cool mix of electronic and classical, which is just one of my favorite things to listen to. And so like it's the perfect study music, it's the perfect like zen, like, you know, just kind of like chill music, and then also like sometimes, you know, it mixes in like a bit of like more like upbeat, powerful stuff as well. So it's really, really cool. I absolutely love it. So Persevere is one of my favorite songs from them, so definitely check that one out. And I would also recommend checking out Prism and also their song Passion. But yeah, they're brilliant. They're very cool. Check them out.
Thank you, Micheal. So that was our discoveries for this week's podcast. Hopefully there's something there you will go and explore, and hopefully you will enjoy. It is now time for our first song of the show, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome the Tropical Boyfriend Catalog with their song, Wasted on You.
The highest heat warnings. Extreme heat.
He said I've been wasted on you. Yeah, he said I've been wasted on you. I can get rude with you, but I don't wanna make you cry my fruit shoot. I can get down with you, but I don't wanna make you cry my fruit shoot.
Highest ever temperatures in June. Some schools have delayed important exams and even closed.
Taking and I'm giving and I'm broken your back. You are too sweet and too bashful. Giving and I'm taking and I'm broken your back. You are no fears my king. Tiger, pussycat, babble, sugar, freak.
Orange alert, the second highest warning level. The heat is expected to rise further in many countries.
He said I've been wasted on
Okay, so it is now time for our topic of the show. And this week I thought it'd be interesting to discuss the importance of radio stations, whether this is a local radio station or a digital radio station, to the musician in today's music industry. And the reason why I thought this would be interesting to talk about is it's not only related to kind of what we're doing here, but the vast majority of people I know don't actually listen to the radio station. They'll either be listening to music in a playlist they've created or someone else has created, or they'll be listening to a podcast like this one. So in the past, radio stations were often a place a musician would go to get exposure and basically get their music heard. The radio would also be the place where you would go to listen to new singles, to listen to the charts, and kind of just have a general engagement with your local community, or in the digital radio, maybe a larger community, whether that be music or socio-economic needs. So obviously with a radio station, you have a bit more of an audience, a bit more of an inclusive area. With a local radio station, maybe it's just kind of your local area. But I do think that there is a real challenge now for radio stations to stay relevant as the internet has grown, and the content you can get online now is fast and ever expanding. Now, I do listen to radio stations when I'm working and when I'm doing deliveries, mainly because I don't really have the time to put on my own music and really listen to something that I want to listen to in that time. So I kind of let the radio station do its thing. But my real question in all this is, how relevant is that station now? Is it just something that people maybe listen to on their way to work? And if you listen to in that small time frame, then that's great. I just don't know if people would maybe tune in to a radio station to the extent that they maybe would have done in the past, because when they go out running, they'll probably listen to a playlist or, as I said, a podcast. I don't know, Micheal, do you listen to radio stations?
Yeah, I do. I listen to, because the thing is I think we're both in that sort of gap where it's like we didn't grow up listening just to radio, but radio was still like a really, really big thing when we were growing up. Because it was like, I remember having cars where they didn't necessarily have a CD player, so it's like you had to listen to the radio. And then later it was like they didn't have an aux cord, and so you had to listen to the radio because nobody had CDs anymore. So it's like, I think there's sort of those situations. A lot of the time, I don't drive living here very much, but when I'm back home, I usually listen to the radio. I use it as an alarm clock as well. I remember I think it was BBC, their Sounds app used to have an alarm feature. So it was you could wake up to I always woke up to BBC Radio 1. So, you're listening to those morning shows, and it's you kind of, listening to the radio is a completely different experience from listening to a playlist, because it's it's not just the music, you know what I mean? I guess it's kind of more like a podcast in the sense that you have people who are talking about the music, talking about the artist. A lot of radio shows also just talk about general news, or have a chat show and games and stuff, where people call in and they do a quiz or whatever. And that stuff's really entertaining as well. So it's kind of it's a different listening experience. But I also find sort of what you were saying, one of the things that I always find when you go into shops or doctor's offices and stuff like that, sometimes they'll have something like Spotify or a playlist going. But a lot of the time they'll just have the radio on, because it's it's just something to listen to in the background. So I think radio still definitely has its place, but I think it depends on what you want, because one of the things that I always got really frustrated with, and while listening to the radio, is having to listen to ads. And it's the same thing with TV, you know what I mean? It's people stop watching or have decreased watching live TV. One, because they just want to watch everything all together. Or also because nobody wants to sit through ads, because it's I just want to watch my show. I don't want to find out about laundry detergent. You know what I mean? And so I think it's the same with radio, is people don't want to listen to radio, especially radio ads are always so cringy, because it's you don't have the visual, right? So it's they always have to do those really extreme voices and that extra bit to kind of get your attention, and it was just
It does. It's true. I think that is the problem with the growth of the internet, with the more, because obviously advertisement is such a big thing, and when you didn't have as many things on the internet, there was less things that advertisers could get to you by. So you really only got it on your TV or your radio, and now it's kind of like everywhere. So people want to have it as little as possible. I mean, I think you're right with I think radio's place is, you know, obviously still an entertainment, and I think its place. I think you find a lot of people listen to the radio probably still in the car, but I remember a time when you'd come home and, you know, mum might be in the kitchen doing something, she'd be listening to the radio, whereas now I don't feel like many people probably would listen to the radio at home. Or if you're going out for a walk, I don't know if you'd necessarily listen to the radio. I mean, sometimes if I've gone out for a walk or run and the football's been on, I've listened to kind of like 5 Live or something because I'm wanting to listen to that. So I think for very specific reasons, I think radio will stay relevant in that way. But yeah, I think when I'm looking at radio as a thing that's relevant for musicians, the only real kind of draw I can see for a musician going to a radio station, if it's a national radio station that thousands of people do listen to at the prime time, because I think the prime time for a lot of radio stations is the breakfast show, because when people go to work, you know, a lot of people when they wake up are quite sluggish, can't really be bothered doing anything, and the radio is the easy solution. Just, I'm going to listen to something that is going to be entertaining and there's going to be music. So for musicians, if you can get onto that show, then I think that is probably pretty important. But I'm not sure how much the other shows they do throughout the week. Maybe the drive time is probably the second thing that comes to be important, so when you're coming home. But maybe the other stuff, I'm not sure how many people outside of those who are maybe kind of always in a vehicle are really listening to it.
I think radio has done an interesting job, and not just about listeners, but also just like adapting. So it's like, you know, like the BBC, they put out playlists on Spotify, you know what I mean? And it's like a lot of radio stations still do their chart shows and still do their single releases. So like, you know, like when a big artist is like releasing a new album or a new single, they'll still go on the radio and talk about it and sort of be like, hey, here's the new single. And then the radio station will get the first play or something like that, along obviously with it being released on something like Spotify too. But it's like, it sort of allows for a bit more like artist interaction to sort of like, you know, do that kind of PR for their music. If you kind of know what I mean. And yeah, and I think like a lot of radio shows as well, like they're not just, you have to listen to it live. So I think I've mentioned this before in like in an episode a while ago, but like sometimes when I'm feeling a bit homesick, I go in it, like I'll go online and I listen to the radio, one of the radios, like stations from home that I really like. And it's like, I can listen to it live, but I can also listen to catch-up shows. So, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, they do have that sort of online streaming thing that you can do as well now. Like if you know that like your favorite artist is like coming in and doing an interview, then it's like you can catch up on that. And then it's also like one of the things that I remembered this when I was young, and I know they still do it, is like the radio giveaways. Like, you know, because it's like there's nothing more exciting than like, or like nerve-wracking waiting for like 12:01 or like trying to guess the song to try and win tickets to like your favorite artist's concert or like a festival tickets or something like that. And that's actually another thing as well. A lot of the big radio stations now also sponsor festivals, or they like, not just now, but like they have sponsored festivals. So it's like, they don't just get their money from people listening, although I think that's still like a big part of it, but they have sort of like reached out and sort of like worked their way into trying to still stay relevant and viable. You know?
I think they are still relevant. And there was two things that you kind of touched on there. I think one, I think radio stations have done fantastically well to adapt. You know, I remember it was all over the BBC when the BBC Sounds app was coming out, and you're like, this is a lot of promotion for something that isn't that great, but actually it's brilliant because, as you said, you can listen to everything that they've ever produced, which I think that stands them out from podcasts, in the sense that a podcast is always, you know, like this. Obviously, we're recording it, and then people listen to it in hindsight, and that interaction comes post the show. Whereas with a radio station, it's always live, or it always will be live at some point. So the interaction can happen instantly, where you can't really get that on many other mediums. Yeah, people could do a live stream and they can do, you know, a live video or whatever they're wanting to do. But the difference is the radio is built in a way that they can do a live show, have interaction, and it could go everywhere. You know, they are built in a way that they can reach masses of people and also be live, which I don't think you can get in podcasts. But then the ability that, as going back to the fact that they've developed and expanded so that you can listen to stuff in the past, it's almost like they're going, well, we are live, but we also have this podcast feature as well. So I think they kind of, as you say, I think they stay on a level playing field. And then the other thing that I think you touched on, with obviously them reaching out to festivals and stuff, the one thing that I think the radio station has over everything else, especially somewhere like something like the BBC or maybe something like Fluff One in Edinburgh, or you know, any kind of semi-popular radio station. I mean, like BBC Radio 6 is a really good example of this. Is they have like their fingers are everywhere, so they could bring an artist in, have an official release, which then goes live at that moment, but they could also have the context to be able to go, like, we're going to put you or introduce you to someone who can put you here, where a podcast might have those contacts, but it's all about the person behind the podcast having those contacts, whereas a radio station is often a bit more of it's a collective. You get your hosts, you get your producers, then you get potentially sales teams and all that behind a radio station. So for a musician, then potentially the radio station, if you can get to the bigger ones, is probably a bit more important than maybe getting to certain podcasts or certain playlists, because of the team that's behind the radio station and the infrastructure.
And it's just sort of like, it's been that way for like ages. I think like radio has done just such a good job with like certain radio stations, because they're big media conglomerates. Like independent radio, which I know is like it's kind of a bit of a different issue. Like I think that struggles a lot more compared to something like BBC or like Virgin. You know what I mean? Like, whereas like independent radio is like a whole another ballgame, because that's always been something that's been like kind of like, you know, you get your underground radio station, that kind of thing, to sort of break away from like the popular music and that kind of thing. But like, so like these big radio stations have always been so closely knit with the music industry. And it gets to the point as well where it's like some like radio hosts are like basically like minor celebrities in their own right.
But I think that's kind of characteristic of the music scene, isn't it? It's, you know, you're just taking a platform. And, you know, if a platform is well known, you know, it's going to be heard by people. It's like if an artist is well known, they're going to be heard by people, and therefore get on the big platform. I think kind of just go into what you're saying about independent radio stations. I think they're probably the ones that are on a bit more of a kind of level playing field with podcasts, because a lot of independent radio stations, I would say, probably have a higher listen rate of people who listen post the show than people who listen live. You know, for example, with the radio station that we do on the Monday, you know, our viewing figures for live are pretty good, but I think we get a lot more people who listen to it post, because that's what people are probably used to, and I think that's obviously what the podcast generation has brought forward. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the independent radio stations, the smaller radio stations, have the chance to kind of get a little bit lost in the ether, but the fact that you can now listen to them after the show, I think it just enables them to essentially sit both as an independent radio station and as a podcast in that kind of general vibe. So I think, kind of going back to the question, is a radio station still relevant, and, you know, is it attractive to an artist? I think even the independent ones are attracted to an artist because there's more than one chance of people listening to that. You still have a live element to it, and then you still have the podcast element. So obviously I think the dream is obviously if you can get on these big conglomerates. I think that's a brilliant way to describe some of these powerhouses that we have for radio stations. That is obviously where artists want to try and get to. But it's almost, you know, just like we were saying with musicians, there's a hierarchy that seems to have always been in the music industry, and potentially working on those independent radio stations which still give you exposure, are almost like stepping stones that eventually you would assume that DJs talk to each other, radio stations talk to each other. Like I've got a friend who works for a local radio station called East Coast FM, and over the last year they've started, getting a bit bigger, and then they've had, submissions from artists or submissions from other radio stations saying you should check this out, and then that creates a sort of bridge. And I think the fact that if you can get that connection, that radio stations can talk to each other, and the fact that they are radio stations, they probably will talk to each other, then it just means that there is still definitely a place for independent radio stations, even if some of the audiences may be taken away by podcasts. Okay, so that was our topic on whether we thought radio stations were still relevant or not in the industry, but we'd obviously like to hear what everybody else thinks, and what are your experiences working with independent radio stations, or if you've had the privilege to work with people like the BBC or Fourth One or any national radio stations. We'd love to hear your experiences and whether you think the whole growth of podcasts and the relevance of playlists in today's industry has affected the position of radio in the music industry.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our next song of the show, and this is from Diamonds and Whiskey, and this is called Keep On, Keepin' On.
Drove to Mississippi, 105 miles an hour. Met a lovely woman, that girl's a southern flower. Baby, when she kissed me, I almost lost all control, yeah. But she's the kind there's no resisting, talking about body and soul. Keep on, keep
Welcome back. We are joined with an amazing singer-songwriter who has traveled to some amazing places, created some absolutely excellent music, and personally made me want to go to India tomorrow. And he's all the way from Seattle, so I'm super excited to welcome Sami Chohfi to the show. How are you doing, Sami?
I'm doing very well. Great pronunciation on the last name. Wow. Kudos. Bonus.
I took
That's amazing.
I took that straight from your video, so I'm glad I got that right.
He's been practicing.
That's awesome. That's great.
Well, it's absolutely great to have you on the show, and it's absolutely great to have the opportunity to discuss your music and the journey you have been on as a musician, and also, obviously, your recent journeys across the world. Now, we think it's probably the best place to start for a lot of the listeners who may not know your music, if you could give a brief idea of what sort of music you do and who you are as a musician.
I started playing music when I was 15, heavily influenced by music growing up in the 90s, and which is music I still listen to today. I saw the Smells Like Teen Spirit video on MTV, and then I had yelled to the living room, "Mom, can you buy me a guitar?" So that's pretty much how that story happened. And I started songwriting around 22 years of age. And it's funny, one of the first songs I ever wrote when I was 15, 16, the music piece became one of the songs off my rock band, Blue Helix, called Wolves. So if you want to hear literally the first song I ever wrote is called Wolves. And it's on Tale of Two Halves from my rock band Blue Helix. So I've been doing the Blue Helix rock band thing for many years. And after we toured Brazil, I kept on getting opportunities to do more shows and more tours. Unfortunately, it's hard to drag 4 guys with you, and they have kids, especially in full-time jobs. So about 3 years ago, I started writing songs in the singer-songwriter rock genre. So I'm blending folk, rock, indie, singer-songwriter, but of course keeping my rock roots. And that has been a blessing because I've been able to, since then, tour in about 6 countries. And I have been able to meet people from around the world. And believe it or not, guys, the biggest inspiration I think people can experience in life, well, what will inspire you to create, what will inspire you to live your best life is truly traveling, seeing the beautiful world, and meeting the amazing, unique people that are everywhere. And so that's me in a nutshell. I just wrote this album called Extraordinary World that was written in the last 2 years across my travels and the meeting of so many wonderful people.
Amazing. You've had quite the musical journey, it sounds like, going from a band to a solo artist. So what was that transition like in terms of just not just like logistics, but also just like artistic? Like, did you enjoy having like a bit more freedom that you can kind of do more your own style, or like how was that for you?
I learned so much from being in a rock band with 3 other guys. It taught me, on the indie part of it, it taught me how to promote and how to engage with, learning how to perform and engaging with an audience live. It's a lot easier to perform in a rock band with other guys on stage, and your voice, singing wise, you can kind of hide behind loud drums and big heavy guitars, and with the singer-songwriter stuff, I felt at first I was terrified because I had to essentially start all over. It wasn't under Blue Helix, it's under Sami Chohfi. I had to rebrand, new logo, new artwork, new websites, new everything. And it's been difficult, but in the end of the day, it's been so rewarding, and I feel like I'm doing my best work now. And especially being able to tour just with your acoustic and your microphone and your stories, it's pretty special. And I can't see myself stopping doing this. I see this continuing. I see, I will have my rock band. It's just not going to be as active as obviously my solo work, because I'm able to do it all the time. It's nonstop for me. My life has always been music, and with being a singer-songwriter, guys, you can, it's on your own time. So It's really great.
Amazing. Because obviously you're a singer-songwriter and it's your solo project, do you do everything? Do you do the guitars? I know you do the guitar, but when you sing, do you do the drums, the bass, the whole production value as well?
So this album right here, this is the record, which actually, if you, I would love to send you guys physical hard copies to enjoy. I will ship them to you to Scotland and England. But so this is the first time I've actually done a record where I collaborated in a way with the writing part of it. What I mean by that is most with Blue Helix, I always formulated the drum ideas and the bass ideas. This album, I did write all the instrumentation except the bass guitar. I had my producer, David Caggiano, write it. I felt it's almost like a collab, you know, when you have other artists and other creatives help, it really changes the color and the shape of things. So David Caggiano did the bass. He produced the vocals with me, so he gave me a lot of cool harmony ideas. And the drums, I actually hired the ex-drummer of Sepultura named John Dolabella, and he's from Brazil, which obviously you guys know I'm also from Brazil, half Brazilian. Married a beautiful Brazilian wife. And so he did the drums, he wrote the drums, and we collaborated via the way we're doing now, talking about the ideas, a lot of this. Right? It's like, try this. You know? So we did that, and you know, but yeah, essentially I wrote all the songs. I just didn't, this time I didn't come up with the drums and bass. So which makes it even more special. It's awesome because the more ideas, the more texture.
Amazing. So I know like the album is, you know, you wrote a lot of the songs kind of here, there, and everywhere. I know you wrote some stuff in, you know, Brazil. Obviously, you wrote some stuff in Lisbon as well, I think.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I wrote A Dirtier Soul was written in Lisbon, Portugal, and An Extraordinary World, the title track, was written in Cambodia.
Yeah, I did see that. So what I'm kind of really interested in is, was there kind of a thought process? You went, right, I'm going to go to these places and I'm going to write about my experience or my feelings, or was it just something I went to this place and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I really love the culture. I love the people. I'm going to write a song about it.
My wife and I travel a lot, and her work entails a lot of traveling. And when she goes, I'll go with her and I'll book shows in some of these places and that she goes to. And then while she's actually working and I'm not playing, I'll sightsee and meet people and connect. And we even do that together sometimes. So a lot of the traveling was by design. We want to see the world and meet people. I think, you know, and I say this all the time, as beautiful as Africa is, in Portugal and Cambodia and India, that's not, the beauty isn't just the sights. It really is the people. They are all so unique and special in so many different ways. Actually, the next video I'm releasing, Extraordinary World, the title track, that is actually, I had this camera. Let me share this with you. Check this guy out. This is a tiny handheld that you can get away with murder in countries because no one realizes you're filming. But see this little guy right here? It films in 4K. It's called a DJI Osmo Pocket. So what the Extraordinary World video is actually all of the people that I came across that touched me, that inspired me. I filmed their face and I put it in the Extraordinary World video, and it's also accompanied by drone shots from a lot of places around the world, and some other things in the video that are pretty cool. But that was a culmination of all of this traveling, and as you know, when you visit different countries, the more you travel, the more you're able to kind of absorb not only the culture, but the energy of the places that you're visiting. And it's incredible. It's so hard not to write a song when you wake up and you go to the Eiffel Tower, and you know, you go to the Versailles Castle, and it's impossible not to be inspired by that. You know, it's just, I think anybody who is artistic or creative is very easily influenced by their surroundings. We are a product of our environment, and that's exactly what this album was. This Extraordinary World was the product of my travels.
Well, so like you've been talking about some really incredible experiences, and I think like one thing that maybe not a lot of artists get the chance to is to perform in like all these different countries, just because the opportunities might not arise and that sort of thing. So I'm just wondering, like, what's that like being able to sort of, you know, like 1 minute be performing in the USA and then like in a couple of weeks, you know, you're performing in like Cambodia or India, like the audience and that sort of thing. Like, how is that different? And it must be incredible.
You know, it's special because you never know how people are going to respond to what you do. And like India, like you just brought up, I've, as you know, I've played a lot of places. Mumbai, India, I haven't felt that much love in a long time. I mean, they were so receptive, and keep this in mind. When you're touring, you could play to a room that has a lot of people and you can play to a room that has very little people, but that doesn't matter because if the people who are there connect and they're engaging with you, that makes the experience magical. Mm-hmm. And if you're an artist and you're playing in a room of 15 people, but every one of those people are connecting with you, you just gain 15 fans. 15 fans who tell 15 more people who tell. So next time you come around town, rest assured you're going to have a lot more people there to see you, you know? And I think my experience in India was very special in the sense that, you know, sometimes when people don't know your music and people they're not familiar with you as an artist, it takes a little bit to get their trust, their attention, and that's their trust. And I think once you earn that, it's a very special connection that you get from people because people's time is very valuable. You know, I mean, guys, think about this. When you make a social media post, how hard is it for people to actually read or click on something that you've posted? Because most of the time you get a like or a heart and they don't even know what it was. You know what I mean? Totally. They didn't click. Yeah. So people's time is what you have to value. Mm-hmm. And I do when I perform live. I value people giving me their time, their ear. And sometimes, you know, I think, tricks for indie artists is open that show with a cover that you know they know, but kill that cover. Hulk smash that cover. Because then you've gained their respect, mm-hmm. you know, and they're like, oh, well, hey guys, this is a song you love. Let's have fun. Let's sing it together. And let me show you some music that I do, you know? And that's kind of the process when you're touring. It's like, okay, when do I need to play another cover to get them back? Yeah. You know what I mean? So you strategically do this as you play anywhere in the world. You strategically plan those covers, and that way you bring them into what you do, which is really, really special. So it's self-discovery too as an artist, especially when you're playing outside of the US. You know, there's a language barrier mm-hmm. in some of these places, right? So you have to, when you're explaining the songs and you're explaining how you wrote them, you want to make sure that you're very articulate and speak nice and slow. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you allow the message to sink in. So yeah, I know that was kind of a loaded answer to your question.
No, that's brilliant though, because it's really interesting to think about the process as well. Because like I hadn't even thought about like, obviously like everybody's so busy all the time. Like attention spans are so much shorter than they used to be. Like your whole thing about social media is so spot on. And so yeah, sort of thinking about like doing those little like covers in between like a couple of songs to bring people back in.
Absolutely.
Like, it's such a good trick. Like it's something I hadn't thought about. Like so yeah, that's really good to hear. Like it's really interesting. So.
And I think, you know, as an artist, you need to cover music that you love.
Yeah.
That you can really connect with.
Totally.
And I completely relate with you with that point about if you're in a room and there's 8 people there, but they're all digging what you're doing, that the love that you get back, the energy is so much better than you're in a whole room and nobody's paying attention.
Yeah.
My dream as an artist has never been to be, you know, Dave Matthews or Dave Grohl, you know, these incredibly talented, creative guys that just have these massive fan bases. All I've ever wanted, guys, was to be able to play in places around the US, around the world, to a room of 50 to 100 people who really just want to connect and they know the lyrics and they love what I do. Mm-hmm. And after the show, we talk about music, we talk about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like real connection, human interaction, this magical, you know, I definitely am the opposite of an antisocial butterfly. You know, I'm the most social butterfly that you will ever be because, you know, people are like the fuel you know, and especially live, guys. It's, you know, that's my one goal. I try to, you know, imagine that every time. Okay, you know, everything that I'm doing is setting up for that final goal of, hey, coffee shop in the middle of London, and hey, there's 50 people here who know Dirty Your Soul, you know, or you know, No Extraordinary World, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's every artist's dream, but that's definitely, I think if you keep your eye on the prize at anything you do, it's possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great way to look at absolutely everything in life. But just as we were talking about, you know, playing in these different places, and this is kind of touching on to the videos and stuff that you've done. Like, obviously, you filmed Dirty Your Soul and This Majesty are both filmed in India. And you gave me the privilege to watch This Majesty before it was premiered yesterday, which I'm very appreciative of. Obviously, both done absolutely excellently, amazing videos, some excellent drone footage when your drones don't end up in the lake. So that's so it's great. But my question is, how did you? I mean, obviously, you say you go out there and socialize, but what was it like to getting to know like the local people and the children that you had with was it the dry sand that you were throwing?
So yeah, that powder is a colorful powder that they use during the celebration of Holi Festival, and you know, with Dirty Your Soul, because the lyrics are so heavy in the sense of, hey, life is difficult, but stay the chorus. You know, I always felt like when I was playing and singing that song, I felt like I would be singing it to my nephew. Hey, you know, it'll dirty your soul, but, you know, don't be afraid and fight for tomorrow. So my wife had thought of, she's like, you know, we should go to India and we should be surrounded by children and life and youth. And we should do it during Holi Festival. So when we had set this whole thing up, we didn't plan on initially recording 2 music videos, but India is so beautiful and so vast. Like, you know, you go to one area and you're like, wow, this is colorful and amazing. And then you go just across the street and it's majestic and it's old. And you know what I mean? It's like historic. So it was amazing that we were in so close proximity to be able to do both of these videos in India, and it almost seems like they're in completely different locations.
Oh, it does.
If you watch, doesn't it? Yeah. So back to your question about the kids, you know, they're the ultimate innocence and they're the ultimate joy, and that was so much fun to be able to experience that with them. We spent about 3 hours together just filming, and basically, essentially, the hardest thing was trying to get them not to throw the powder on me before it was time. And so, like, what you're watching, guys, in both of these music videos, and this is the one thing I will say about filming in India that most people probably will never realize unless they do it. You have one take. You have one take to do everything. And if you don't get it in one take, sorry. Because not only did you not capture the moment, secondly, you may get shut down. And third, once you get powder on you, you can't get it cleaned off. There's no starting over. There's no clean, right? So everything that you guys are watching in those videos, what makes it even more special is it's in the moment. You know, Dirty Your Soul, for instance, that kid that runs up to me, you know,
when you on the back of the bike, yeah.
Yeah, it was back of the fruit and nut truck thing there. And I'm playing, and most people are looking at me like, why is this guy, because no one's ever done that, right? No one, who does that? So, but I figured it would be a really, yeah, I do that. So the kid runs up to me and he just starts talking to me, and I'm sitting there singing the song and acknowledging him. The guy that's on the bike, he's coming up and he's kind of looking at me, and then I nodded at him and he waves at me, and all of that, you know, to the naked eye, you would think, oh, he planned that. There's no way. Yeah. That's why it's so cool, is because it's organic. And you can't fake when something's organic. And everything in that video, in both videos, guys, is one take. Bam. That's it. You know, it's the moment. And that's what really captures the magic.
That's incredible.
They are magic. I definitely felt like you captured that idea of just people are wonderful, and being with people and experience their culture and just their emotion is.
It's interesting too. It's like in the Extraordinary World video, some of the people from India are in that video as well. Their faces, And you would think, and you know, being from America, we are very spoiled here. You know, even those of us who don't make a lot of money are able to live a good life. And in places like Cambodia, Brazil, and India, some of these people who are super poor don't have much. They are so happy with what they do have. Family, a place to sleep, food to eat. And it really puts things in perspective, and you see it like in the Extraordinary World video. You see all these people from all these different places, and the people from India never look defeated. It's very interesting. Oh man, I get emotional just thinking about that, you know? Because people in life give up so easily.
Yeah.
And then you go to a place like India and you're inspired by them. Yeah. Always happy, always positive, get in a good place, in a good mood, you know?
It's
a beautiful thing.
It's inspiring listening to it. I watched those two videos and I was like, right, Sami, I've got to get on a plane to India tomorrow, you know?
You should. If you're good, when you do go to Jaipur.
Yeah.
Spend more time in Jaipur than any place that you go. Yeah, Jaipur. Way too much to see, way too much to experience. Don't do it in 2 days. Stay 4 or 5 days if you can.
Perfect.
And try to visit the place. Do me a favor when you go there. I would love for you to take photos and send me the photos of places that I was at during the video, like Hawa Mahal, for instance. You know, the Hawa Mahal in the Majesty video is the one with the big orange deal and the drone is circling with the bird circling around it. Which, by the way, those birds are attacking the drone. That's why they're this close to the drone.
They're
it's like people are like, wow, yeah, what's going on? These birds are, because the moment we started filming, those birds started circling the drone. And my drone operator, Alexander Supasi, he had said to me, I was going to film you, even if that drone, and we lost that second drone, you know, even if they attacked it, we had to get the shot. And I tell you guys, there was one of those birds that if you watch the edit, it's literally about 2 inches from tapping that drone and hitting it. It's nuts.
The birds are like, this is mine now.
I thought it was crazy because it's like, you know, you don't see a bird around at that time when we were on that rooftop. And the moment the drone goes up, birds come from God knows where in drones, you know, like, I mean, there's like 10 birds just circling. Watch the video again and watch for that scene. You'll see. And the guys, every time there's a drone shot, they're still circling.
They're like ready for it.
For 4 minutes, they're doing this.
That's incredible.
It's nuts. It really is nuts.
I thought, I mean, as you say, organic makes it best.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, organic birds. No CGI there, you know. I mean, it was crazy. Really crazy.
Okay, so looking at the time, we don't have a huge amount of time left. So, obviously, having discussed the album, which is amazing, and I'm going to go and listen to it again after this because you've just inspired me to listen to all the songs again and also watch those 2 videos. But obviously you've got a new single out tomorrow. Is that when it debuts?
Yes.
This Majesty?
That's the 7th of August, I think, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
So
we're sharing the Rolling Stone article today because they did the world premiere of the video today. They did it a day early, which I thought was cool. So, but tomorrow it's officially being launched on Spotify and iTunes and all the stuff.
Amazing. So for all our listeners, you can, by the time you hear this, you'll be able to go and listen to it and put it on your playlist and just enjoy the amazing music that you produce. So kind of just looking a little bit further than the next single, I was just wondering what is next for Sami Chohfi and any new countries that you're planning on exploring or, you know, just...
So yeah, I do have quite a bit of plans. So the next single is Extraordinary World. That's the culmination of all the locations in one video. And I'm actually going to, in this email that I sent to you today, I'm going to send you a preview of that video as well. And that one is the next single that's being released on September 3rd with the entire album. The whole album's coming out. And then following that, I have more videos coming out to extend the life of the record. So every month and a half, there'll be another video. I have one from Paris coming, one that was written in Paris. The video is also filmed in Paris. It's a song called All Over Again. It's about meeting someone in this life and the next. You know, sometimes you meet people in your life and you're like, man, why do I connect with that person in such a strong way? That's what the song's about. It's about the love for a significant other, or, you know, anybody really, but loving someone so much that you want to do it all over again. And that video will be coming soon. Dreams of Yesterday, we're trying to contract someone to do an animated video, and I'm hoping that goes through. And Tidal Wave, I still have to go to Brazil to do a video for that, because right now Tidal Wave just has a lyric video. So, but yeah, basically, guys, every one of the songs on Serenade the Darkness too will have a video. Every one of the songs on this record, all 8 songs, were so special to me that I felt all of them needed a video. And I know, and it was crazy, because it's like, you think it's such a huge undertaking, but once you find the right team of people to do something with you, it flows and it works. And thank God I also have the best partner in the world, my wife Renata, who, you know, keeps me grounded, keeps me in check when I start freaking out about things. She's like, no, it's good the way it is. Are you sure? Because we can do it like 10 times. No, it's good the way it is. So a lot of what you guys see is her 2 cents saying it's good the way it is.
I love it. No, you have so much passion for it. It's incredible.
Thank you. So yeah, that's coming. And then I'm planning on doing a tour in Brazil in December. And I'm hoping that I get some radio play while I'm there. And I was already talking with the Hard Rock Cafe and some people in India about touring in March. But again, everything is kind of based on what's happening with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
As you know.
The main roadblock to everything.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for the, coronavirus, I think, artists would be touring all over the world right now, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Lollapalooza was just live streamed.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's wild.
So sadly, guys, we've come to the end of our interview with Sami Chohfi, but it has been absolutely brilliant to have him on the show. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully our listeners have gained a bit more knowledge and understanding of what you do and what you're trying to do in your music. And just leaves me to ask you if you would introduce the single that we're going to play on today's show.
I thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. You guys are both amazing spirits, great energy. I love you both already. So I would love to introduce this Majesty. It is a song I wrote in Kenya after the passing of my brother. It is a music video was featured in the Rolling Stone India today. And you guys can actually just Google Sami, S-A-M-I, Rolling Stone. And it'll pop up the video for this Majesty. But it is by far one of the most powerful, lyrically powerful and intense songs on the record. And of all of the songs in this album, it's the most layered as well. It has a lot of intricate instruments like this right here. This is called an ebo. And what it does is it makes the guitar sound like a violin. There's layers of this in the song, especially in the bridge. And the song also has a lot of vocal harmonies, and oohs and ahs and answer vocals. So anyway, without further ado, this Majesty.
I would know your face in the deepest, darkest place. I could feel your grace on that lonely mountainscape. And as I fight my way out of hell, I realize the things I've done could never be undone. And I know it's here in my misery, and I know it's here with me in this Majesty. time to you, would you stand and share your view? Forgive what I have done. I'm a man who burns the sun. And as I fight my way out of hell, I realize the things I've done could never be undone. And I know it's here in my misery, and I know it's here with me in this majesty. Disappear, disappear, disappear. All this guilt and fear in the flesh, in my soul. Reappear who I was. And if I stand before God at the end of my life, I'll surrender forever. Love cannot die, no question that I will remember. Where do we go and where does it end? Do we have the time to make our amends? Into the unknown we travel alone. In the break of the storm, awaken my soul. And I know it's here with me in my misery, and I know it's here with me in this majesty. Disappear, disappear, disappear. All this guilt and fear in the flesh, in my soul. Reappear who I was. It's all so clear who I was long ago.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening today. And remember, if you've got any thoughts on anything that you've heard in the show, let us know on our social media. You'll find all those links in the bio. Remember to give us a little follow and a like. As well, in our show notes, you'll find all the links to the artists that you've heard us talk about and heard the songs from today. Thanks so much to all of those guys as well, because the music was amazing. And we're so excited that we got to share that with everybody. And we'll see you all back for the next show.